Awesome. Yay, we are up. A few more guests coming in the audience here. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Playing to Win. I couldn't be more excited. It's really hard for me to sit still in my seat today. I wish I was physically with this guest in person, and so we'll have to do that another time. So honored to have Mo Anderson as our guest today. So Mo, I just want to say from my heart, thank you for making time for us today to share who you are with the world. Thank you for your time.
Well, I'm so honored that you invited me, Melanie. That's wonderful.
Oh, Mo, you've been such a mentor to me. And I tell you this all the time. I'm always, anytime I get to be around you, I'm always telling you what an inspiration you've been to me. And I know that that goes for many people that will listen to this either on the live or in the podcast later on. Is you've been such an icon and pillar for so many of us, like literally to this day, when something is a challenge for me or whatever, I always ask myself, what would Mo do? What would Mo do? I do that all the time to this day. And you know, from the first day that I took ESO with you in Texas when I was becoming a new team leader in Reno 15 years ago, you've just been such an icon. So I just want to thank you for all that you do for all of us in so many ways, but especially Keller Williams.
Well, thank you. A couple of regions made the bracelets. What would Mo do?
Oh, they did?
MD.
I love that. I'm going to have to make one of those. I'm going to have to find out who
that was funny.
So, well, let's just start with this because I've got some different questions because I've interviewed you before and we had that awesome lunch that we got to interview. But I'm going to ask a few different things with Mo because you are such a legacy and we are going to go so many different directions. And everybody's in for such a treat for listening and learning from this amazing human being. What do you think is the best thing about being Mo Anderson?
Well, I think the best thing about being Mo is that I'm 85 in May.
Amazing. And look at you. You are my role model.
My. You know, it's so exciting to know that I'm still alive. I'm still above ground. And I'm getting to enjoy life. So the most exciting thing is that I'm still cooking. The second thing is when you're ancient like me, except I don't feel old, you have had so many life experiences. And by the time you're almost 85, you really pretty much know what you believe and what you think. And when you know what you believe and what you think, then it's far easier to make difficult decisions. But probably the most fun thing is the fact I'm still dreaming, because in spite of COVID, my 80s have come in really strong. And now I'm dreaming about what I'm going to be doing in my 90s. Isn't that fun?
Isn't that amazing? I love that. That is such an inspiration because the podcast that I have is actually called The Second Half, Mo. And the second half is all about, you know, I think a lot of us put a lot of weight in the first half, but it's really the second half, whether it's of your life or of the game that you're playing. It's the second half where you really can make the most out of anything, right?
Well, the second half for me has been far better than the first half. And I think that comes with maturing and knowing who you are and knowing what you believe. And it's been exciting. My 70s have been the most productive decade of my life.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, my 80s, it's coming in really strong. And I just love that about me.
I love that about you. I love so many things about you, but I love that about you. That is such a great answer too. What an inspiration. And so much of that is just who you are every day, showing people, you're like raising the bar of what's possible. Like here you are planning, like, what can I make happen in my 90s? You know, like you think about all these amazing people that later in life really made the biggest impact, right? And I can't wait to see what your 90s, what you achieve. So here's a question I ask all of my guests. Mo, what does playing to win look like for you?
Well, for me, it looks like the will to win. Do you get my point? In other words, playing to win or having the will to win means you do whatever it takes. For example, when I was CEO of the company years and years ago, I knew that I would have to work really hard because we didn't have the funds back then to hire the staff. And I had let most of the staff or much of the staff go. And so it meant be at the office at 6 in the morning, and I would stay until 2 o'clock the next morning because there was a lot of staff stuff I had to do because we didn't have a large staff like we do now. And so doing whatever it takes may require some things that you really don't want to do, but you do it anyway because if you're really going to get something launched, you have to do it. And that's part of the will to win. You can play to win, but you got to have the will to win before you can play to win. And when Gary allowed me to have ownership in the national company, that fueled my desire for the company to win. I think the next thing that you have to have is that attitude of never, 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 never give up. Because there were a lot of times that a person in my position as CEO of the company could have given up. And I came close one time. I had de-hired a number of regions because they hadn't done diddly squat.
Right. Wrong people in the wrong seats, right?
Wrong people in the wrong seats. And we had a regional meeting, and everybody walked in and said, "Mo, where is everybody?" And I burst into tears and I said, "They're gone. I de-hired them. They won't be back."
Yes. Yeah.
And
That was a real turning point, though, Mo. That was a real turning point for the company when you did that.
It was, because I was, so tired of the problems and the issues. I was ready to just go back to Oklahoma and have my little region and live happily ever after. But there was something inside that really, I didn't want to give up. And then Mike Brody, he stood up and said, "Mo, we're going to help you because you don't have enough staff." I always tell Gary that I got a trophy for what I did back then. And he looked at me and said, What trophy? And I pull down my sweater and I show him my pacemaker. I tell him my pacemaker is my trophy.
No kidding. That or the purple star, right? It's one or the other. It's your badge.
And then, when you have to do what it takes and you have the mindset of never, never, never give up, you have got to be a person who can defeat negativity. And there is a Bible verse. I think everybody knows I'm a follower of Christ and that this part of my life is really important to me. But the scripture says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, of power, and of a sound mind." So whenever I feel those thoughts, experience those thoughts of, "Oh, heck, I'm tired, maybe I should give up," then I quote that verse over and over and over and over until I have shoved the negativity out of my mind. For God has not given us a spirit of fear. Well, if God didn't give it to us, who's given it to us? Yeah,
that is beautiful. I love that. That is so beautiful. When you take it, the will to win, and I love that scripture. Thank you for sharing that. Doing what it takes. And I think that never, 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 never giving up, because I think people often quit right before greatness is about to show up for them, no
Well,
matter what it is in their life.
what was the name of the book where they were looking for gold and they quit mining and they were within inches from it? They gave up
Wow.
like 2 inches before they would have found it. So somebody else came along and found it.
I
And-
hadn't heard of that book. I'm gonna have to look that up. That's
Oh, it's a famous book. I think Nightingale.
Oh, is that yeah, okay. One of the Think and Grow Rich.
It may be in Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
I've forgotten.
It's
Too old
okay.
to remember.
You've read, no, it's just that you've read so many books.
I've
that
read
I
so
can't
many
even-
books. I get confused on what's in what.
Hey, I'm right with you, my dear. I'm right with you. Ruth, who is on our North team with me here, she said one of her favorite scriptures is what you just read. That's one of her absolute favorites. So.
Oh, good.
I love that. She's lovely. Oh, okay, so let's talk about your life today. You shared a little bit about, what's great about being you, but what brings you the most joy these days?
Well, I'm going to divide that personal and business.
Perfect.
And personally, what brings me great joy is we have had our first great grandchild. And I thought having grandkids was just the cream of the crop. But let me tell you what, when you live long enough to see generation 4, remember I'm Gen 1, me and my husband, and then Gen 2 would be our children, generation 3 would be our grandchildren, and now we've got the 4th generation. She's 16 months old, and she has just won my heart, and I'm spoiling her even worse than I did my grandkids.
I think you're allowed. I think that's in the book of rules somewhere about each generation you get to spoil them a little more. I think I read.
Oh my. It's just so much fun.
How wonderful is that?
Also, personally, when my grandkids were growing up, I always had grandkids dinners. And at the dinner, they had to put their phone on the chest in the hall. They had to come to the dinner table with a topic that they wanted to talk about, whatever they wanted to talk about. Then after dinner, we would move into the living room, and then we would get to talk about whatever Grammy and Papa wanted to talk about. So lately, I mean, they're all grown now, and lately we have been working on teaching them about philanthropic giving. In other words, how do you vet a charity that you may want to give money to? How do you hold that charity accountable for your money? And so at Christmas time, I designated a certain amount of money, and they divided it up equally among the 3 of them. And they went out and vetted charities, and then they came up with a plan to hold the charity accountable, and they delivered the checks, in December. And that was really, really a fun project.
That's amazing.
I had a third party couple who has helped us set up a family office. They actually taught them a class on philanthropic giving. And then I'm very involved in helping people in need. And right now I'm helping Dr. Dawn and Laquita Roach, and they lost a lot of their savings in the stock market crashes. And now they're elderly, they're older than me, and just horrible things have happened to them. And I find great joy in being able to help them.
And you are such a great role model of that, my dear. Which we definitely want to spend some time on. How about for joy work-wise? Anything work-wise? Because you got the kids.
Work-wise, my greatest joy is Gary says that I can do whatever I want whenever I want to do it. He says I've earned that. And it's just so much fun to be able to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it.
You've earned that right. That feels good. And yet you're still dreaming about what you're going to do in your 90s, right?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, so you wrote A Joy-Filled Life. For those of you who have not read the book, by the way, Mo, the book is Acres of Diamonds, I think. Somebody
Acres
put
of Diamonds.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, perfect. I have not read that, so I will add that to my list.
Oh, do. It's great.
I will add that. You wrote A Joy-Filled Life, which is such a beautiful story in so many ways and so many lessons in there. And I know last time I interviewed you, we talked a little bit about the writing process and how much Dave Jenks had helped you and all that. Do you have another book in your future?
No. Writing that book was really one of the hardest things I've ever done. It took me years to get that book finished. And I surprised Gary with it. I wrapped it up in a Christmas package that year, and he opened it, and there was that manuscript. And I said, Gary, I want your blessing on this book. So read it to make sure I haven't written anything that would hurt the company, embarrass the company, or embarrass you. And he read it, and he came back to me and he said, I could only find 2 misspelled words. And he didn't find anything really. And he suggested I use his outside editor. So I sent it to her and asked her to read it. And if there was any phrase or anything she didn't understand, to let me know, because sometimes I would find myself using Keller Williams jargon, and the public, they don't know what Y4C2Ts mean.
Exactly.
What's this language you're using?
Yeah.
So she came back with 4 or 5 phrases or paragraphs that she didn't understand, and I cleaned that up. And then she had me combine 2 chapters. And so I made 1 chapter out of 2.
That's amazing.
And I actually wrote the book for my grandchildren and to honor my parents, who were, so poor and worked so hard to keep food on the table and shoes on our feet.
Yeah.
And I wanted to really honor them. And then I wanted to honor Richard, because he was really the power behind almost everything I've ever done. Yeah. But I did it in a more subtle way, because I wanted the book to be a book the grandkids might read when they were 40 or 50 or 60.
Right, when they were ready, when the time was right for them to actually appreciate it, right? Exactly.
And so 45,000 copies later, it's still selling on Amazon, and I'm just shocked.
That's amazing. That is just so incredible. And it's a beautiful book. So those of you that are on the live stream or listening, you can find that on Amazon, A Joy-Filled Life by Mo Anderson. It's a great read, great stories in there about your life lessons, which are wonderful. Okay, so here's another question. And we kind of touched on this a little bit. We talked about joy, but what are you most proud of? What are you most proud of?
Well, let's do personal and then professional.
Perfect.
I'm proud of my 64-year marriage. We'll be married 65 years in August. Were there times I wanted to kill him? Yeah. And I'm sure the reverse was true. I mean that figuratively, not literally. So don't rat on me.
That's amazing. 65-year anniversary coming up in August.
That's right. And, because marriage takes work, and a lot of work. And, we've made it for 64 years. It'll be 65 in August. I'm really proud of that.
That's something to be really proud of, Mo. I don't know how many people these days can say that, actually. That's incredible.
Because we're totally different.
You are totally different.
High aggressive and bossy, and he is a thinker, and he has an analytic mind, and he's quiet and reserved. And when he speaks, you better listen because he's usually full of wisdom. He doesn't just chatter like I do.
So you're going to listen to every word.
I buy a car in 5 minutes. It takes him 3 years to buy a car.
Yes, I
So
think
we're very, very different, and yet we've made it.
and that's why, that's the beauty in that though, right?
That's
That's the
right.
beauty in that.
And
Okay, how about professionally?
I'm really, really proud of what I contributed in building, in helping to build KWRI, because I came in and cleaned it up, got it positioned for growth. When Gary asked me to come and be his partner, I thought I would immediately make it grow. And then when I saw that we had so many wrong performers, we had the wrong people on the bus, I just began to de-hire. And and then if we had the money, I would hire a staff person to take their place, but we didn't usually have the money. So I'm really proud because Gary had actually built the basis of the culture, but I was really good at implementing it. What made us such a powerful pair, in my opinion, is I couldn't do what he did because he's got this unbelievable mind and he's a visionary, and I'm an implementer. So he would come to me with a vision, with his vision, and as he would explain it to me, I knew the steps that would be required to implement it. I'll never forget when we did the fee for technology the very first time. I think we had 100 offices back then, if I remember right. And he shared with me in the first part of September, I think. I may have the dates wrong. And he said, here's my vision. Here's what I think we need to do. Do you think we can get it implemented by next spring? And I said, what do you mean next spring? We can get it implemented in a month. And he said, in a month? And so I talked to the team leaders, told them, I want you to get your ALCs involved. And if they approve what Gary wants to do, then take it to the agent base and have a vote in the agent base. And when we had the vote, it was 98 offices for it and two offices against it. And so I called those 2 offices and I said, I really want to honor your vote. So I'll stop sending you the information about what we're doing in tech because I know you don't want to be a part of it. And I just wanted to let you know, if you don't receive anything, I'm going to honor your vote. And 2 weeks later, they call me and say, oh, we've revoted and we've decided we want to be in. And I just thought that was pretty good, within
That's really
2 weeks,
good.
we
That's
had
really
100%.
Yeah. And what a great strategy. You are the brilliant role model of that. What a great strategy to go back to those 2. And yeah, that is such a Mo Anderson move right there. I love it.
Yeah.
What would Mo do? That's what Mo would do. And that is exactly why we all need those bracelets in our life.
But see, I said I would honor you, honor your vote, instead of yelling at them because they didn't vote for it. I said I would honor them.
Yeah.
Well, they realized they would be missing out on the information. So it all worked out.
Oh, that's so good. That is so good.
I'm also really, really proud of KW Cares. And I'm real proud of our little region. It's really, really small, but in terms of productivity per agent and some of the metrics that we don't really track all that much, we really excel.
That's
You know,
wonderful.
we have a business center in Broken Bow, Oklahoma. The average sales price is close to $700,000. And they are just knocking it out of the ballpark in that community. Can you believe that? The average sale price in
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma?
Yeah, and your region is just one state, right? And so it's just Oklahoma.
Yeah, we only have 9 offices.
Oh,
And
wow.
then we have a lot of business centers tied to an office. So it's a small region, and I'm actually really proud of it.
Oh, you should be. Anything else you wanted to mention, or should I go on to the next question?
Well, I'm really proud of my grandkids. The oldest one is a girl. She is a dermatologist. The second one is, he says he has his dream job, and he got it a year after working in a bank. And he is an investment analyst for a wealth management company. And the third one is a senior at OU, majoring in economics and finance.
It's amazing.
And, you know, my kids turned out good. My grandkids have turned out good. So I'm real proud of that. And I would hope that the grandkids' dinners, you know, I taught them when they were little bitty to have 3 piggy banks. And the first one was their tithe, and the second one was their investment, and the last one was their savings. And when we gave them $1, then we explained to them 10 cents had to go into the tithe. That's 10%. 10 cents had to go into savings, and 10 cents had to go into the investment. And when the investment piggy bank was full, they brought it to Papa, and he talked to him about investing in stock, and they ended up investing in Disney stock.
I love that.
So to this day, they have a little bit of Disney stock.
Oh, that's so great. I love that though. But think about that visual.
And then the grandson that's an investment analyst already has 2 rent houses that he's bought. And then he bought a multifamily unit in Norman, Oklahoma, which is almost on the campus. And he fills it with all of his beta brothers that were in his fraternity. All those beta guys come and rent it. And there's like a waiting list to get in it. And it cash flows $40,000 a year. So he has to
a year.
He has to put some of it away for repairs and that kind of thing. But he's making great money on that investment. And so, you know, that's pretty
proud of that,
special.
dear,
And I think all of that training that we've tried to do through the years has helped.
Yes, that has helped. Well, obviously it's helped. That is such an awesome story. Does it surprise you at all, this massive success that KW is having globally? Like, are you surprised at all by this? That must just be the coolest feeling, knowing that you are such a huge part of this.
Well, during my term, we did do a lot of the research for the foreign markets because we were premature in opening Canada, and we paid a price because we really weren't ready. And so I didn't allow that to happen in Europe and Asia and all these other countries. So I did have a vision of opening there and having great success worldwide, but I was concerned whether or not the foreign markets would adopt our culture.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, they have adopted it. They are hungry for it. I remember when we had our first Red Day after Turkey came on, that morning I had about 200 emails from agents in Turkey.
Oh.
And they were so excited because they had helped a hospital. And they said, people just don't do this in Istanbul, and we're the only ones doing it. And they took great pride in their Red Day. And remember when we had the flood in Houston,
Yep.
how all of those agents came and they wanted to be a part of,
Yeah.
of helping Houston.
Yep. The relief. Yeah.
And the Turkish agents were assigned to bus 18. And our command center told bus 18 to go to the Second Baptist Church when they got in Houston. And so when those agents got out of the bus, they went to Ellen Curtis, who was the bus captain, and said, Ellen, why are they sending us to the Second Baptist Church? They should have sent us to the First Baptist Church. I thought that was so cute.
So precious.
So funny.
That is so cute. It's all that translation, right? It didn't translate quite right. Oh, that is so sweet. Well, it must be amazing though, just to see though. Number
But
one,
the culture is accepted in almost all of those offices.
it's amazing.
And that just shows what our worldwide team what they've done.
Yeah.
They've presented the culture in a way that has made it so acceptable by those people. I'm so proud of them. I hardly know what to think.
Yeah. Like this week, family reunion, South Africa's having their family reunion, right? And it's so neat to see. And so like I'm leading one of the panels tomorrow with their number one agent and things like that. And I love helping whatever I can worldwide, because it's so amazing to see these leaders of these countries take this concept and bring that culture, and somehow they attract the right people. I mean, it's just extraordinary. And it all started though from everything that was built thanks to a lot of your leadership, my dear.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
So how does it feel to be an inductee to the Oklahoma Hall of Fame with
oh my gosh. My mind never even thought that was possible. I never ever even thought about it.
How'd you find out? How'd you even find out, Mo? How did you even learn about it?
They called me, the Hall of Fame people called me and said I'd been chosen. And you know what I said? I said, I think you've made a mistake. Well, they had worked through Kelly and they'd gotten all this information, and they had all the stuff, and I didn't know it. And I knew they would have to get the information, and I thought they'd have to get it from me, but they got it from her.
You know what's so neat about that, Mo, is I love that, because I know you've had a lot of awards and recognition. I love that one specifically because it wasn't just a KW award. And I know you've gotten a lot of awards outside of KW, but the Oklahoma, Hall of Fame, like, come on, the impact, and for your being way ahead in women leaders of great companies, right? And what a way to honor you. I just love that you got that honor. So deserving.
Well, it was pretty exciting for me. It's probably the most unexpected, greatest honor I've ever had, because the Oklahoma Hall of Fame makes it so classy and so beautiful. The actual ceremony, it was really special.
Yeah. I'm so happy that was.
And Keller Williams people from all over came, from the East Coast, from the West Coast, when they heard about it.
Yeah.
And I didn't put out a message or anything, so I guess it was by word of mouth.
I think you're loved, Mo. I think you are loved. That's what I think it is.
Oh my, it was just, I'd look up and here would be somebody else I didn't know, who was coming.
Yeah.
And we're so impressed with the ceremony itself. Do you all remember when we had our last in-person mega camp, and we had the cultural summit, and I had a blind man speak?
Yes.
Jim Stovall, do you
Yes.
remember him?
He was great.
He was inducted into the Oklahoma Hall of Fame this past November. And
Oh,
I'm
that's
so
so great.
proud of him.
Oh,
He's the one who wrote the book, The Ultimate Gift, that I tell everybody, make your
yep.
kids and grandkids watch it when the grandkids are old enough. They made a movie out of it. James Garner starred in it.
Yeah.
It is the best movie to show older teenagers or young adults.
I love that. So many good tips in this interview. Well, let's talk about giving back, because we've talked a lot about how passionate you are about it. Why has that always been so important to you?
Well, I grew up in poverty, and the only thing we could give as a family was our time. We couldn't give money, and we couldn't give gifts. You know how much fun it is to go buy a gift for somebody, and it's something you'd like to have. Well, I read somewhere one time that it isn't really a gift unless you really would like to keep it yourself.
Oh, I like that. I like that.
And there have been a lot of gifts I've given away that I would love to have had myself. But I think it's the poverty thing that makes me so joyful that I get to do that. Because I have these different girl groups from my past.
The
College
best.
group,
Mhm.
I have a real estate group. And I take these women on these surprise trips. I didn't during COVID, of course, but every year before that, I'd take them on these surprise trips, and they would get gifts, pillow gifts. I mean, things like iPads and iPhones back when they came out. And, the robot sweeper that sweeps your house, because most of these women, not all of them, but most of them have been teachers, and they haven't had the funds to buy the fun stuff. And so I love spoiling them. You just don't know how much joy I get from that. And I hope I can do it again before we all die, but I don't know how long COVID's going to be around. And
I know.
and
Yeah, I've seen you all in your poodle skirts and like all your gifts. You go all out on that. I just think that is, and what a memory you're creating together. Excuse me. Amazing.
that's right. So
Well,
that's why I'm passionate.
okay. Well, and you think about Red Day was born from your passion, right? Red Day was born in honor of you because of that passion. And now we get to get, like you said, in Turkey, it's impacting other countries. And that's all coming from this, role modeling from you, Mo. It's amazing. I mean, do you even realize the outreach and the impact that your awesomeness has had on the world?
No, I'm just a plain old person.
You're so humble. I know. And I, one of my favorite days was introducing my mother to you, because you have both been such role models for me for so many reasons. You're just amazing. Here's a question I'd love to ask you. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give your 50-year-old self?
I would tell my 50-year-old self to go back to school and get a major in accounting, because Gary asked me to be CEO when I was 57, and I couldn't read a financial because my husband did all that for me when we had our real estate firms before I ever heard of Keller Williams. He handled that for me. He would show me the numbers and tell me what was bad and what was good. And I didn't really understand financial statements. When you're a CEO, you need to understand. And I'll never forget when Gary interviewed me, he said, "What is your greatest weakness?" I looked at him and I said, "I can't read a stupid financial statement without help." And he laughed. And so then when he did ask me to be the CEO, I knew I had to learn. So he told me one day that he wanted me to teach financials to the team leader. So I thought, okay, I'm going to do that. And on the where it shows assets, I did things like there are airy-fairy assets, and there are assets that you can touch, like furniture and copy machines. So I taught it in like a kindergarten
Yeah,
method.
but people could
You
understand
have
that way.
no idea how many people came up to me and said, I understand it for the first time.
You know, that what you just said is so much bigger than many people may imagine, or what you can even imagine. That is such good advice, because I think that that's for whether you're an agent, whether you're a CEO, whatever it is, whether you're a business owner, whoever's listening to this. If you cannot read financials, then you never really know where you're at, right? You never know. And so that's great
right.
advice to anybody, Keller Williams or not, right? I think that is such good advice for people to get better on their accounting skills and understand financials.
So that's what he made me do.
I love
I
that.
never learned to teach it, like the MBA way. I've always taught it the grade school way.
The Mo way. Well, the Mo way is obviously the way people can understand. I know Jay Papasan and Wendy. I had Wendy on the show last week, and they bring up all the time. Yeah, someone in the audience said, "Please teach us. Let's do a class on financials, Mo's language of financials. We would love that." But they talk about how Jay showed up to your class on, I think it was reading a balance sheet or P&Ls or whatever, and he was the only one that showed up. And you taught him one-on-one, and it changed the whole trajectory of how he understood financials. And now they do so much teaching. So there you go.
And I had him prepare a budget and the outline of a financial. And then after he did his tracking for a month, then he filled in the blanks, on the financial statement. And then he learned it so well that he passed me. I mean, he knows it the MBA way.
Yeah, he does. But that's it. But you got him jump started in that direction, right? It all started with your teachings. You've talked about some of the things in your life, but do you have a life lesson or a favorite story from your journey that you'd like to share with our listeners today?
Well, I have a lot of favorite stories, but probably the one that had the greatest impact on my life was my father. We were in our old pitiful jalopy that ran part of the time, and we were in Enid, Oklahoma. And he took me by the Carnegie Library, and that's where we usually stopped to check out books because we couldn't afford to buy books. And that day he opened the car door, he took my hand, and he walked me up the steps of this beautiful old building, which they tore down, but I do have a picture of it. They tore down because it had all this asbestos in it.
Yeah.
And he told me the story of Andrew Carnegie. And Andrew Carnegie grew up in poverty like we did. And he made his money in steel. He owned a steel mill. And he was a controversial person politically. But when he grew older and he became ill, he decided to take care of his family first. So he gave them whatever money he gave them. I don't know what he did. And then he had $350 million left over. And $350 million would be like 3 billion today.
Wow.
Has your dollar devalued? I think it has. and he took that 350 million and he said, what I want to do is I want to place libraries across the smaller cities and little towns across the United States. So he put together a team, and they would go buy the land, they would oversee the building. He would buy the books to put in the library. And then after a year, the library would be given to that city. So he got the library on its feet.
Wow.
He hired the staff. And at the end of telling me this story, my dad looked at me in the eye and he said, now here he is, a man with an 8th grade education. He was poor as could be. And he looked at me and said, I always want you to respect the wealthy. Did you hear that? I always want you to respect the wealthy, because the wealthy usually give back. Now, I don't really remember for sure how old I was, but I was old enough to get the point.
Yeah.
And the point I got was this: it's okay to be wealthy. And from that moment on, as a child, I always said, I want to make more money than I need so that I can give it away. And then it was like he had a match and he lit a fire in my belly, so to speak. There was just something that happened on the inside of me. And I was determined, I was sick to death of being poor. And I was determined that when I grew up, I would not be poor. Well, I was a teacher for 14 years, and I finally discovered I'd never, ever make more money than I needed being a teacher. Sad to say, it's just awful. And that's probably the reason I was willing to get into the real estate business when Richard kind of shoved me into it, because I wanted to make more money than I needed. And I am so thankful to my dad for not raising me with a prejudice against wealthy people. Well, those are those nasty wealthy people, and they're greedy and they're blah, 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 blah. And we got to really be careful what we teach our kids about wealth, because my dad freed me up to work hard and develop wealth. I didn't inherit anything from anybody. And now today, we were able to put our granddaughter through medical school, and on it goes. And it's because of what my father did for me in that moment. So my question to you is, what are you teaching your kids about wealth? Are they growing up thinking that it's not good to be wealthy? Well, let me tell you what, if we didn't have some wealthy agents, we wouldn't be able to fund KW Cares or KW Kids Can or Red Day projects. Because when you make more than you need, then you can give it to wherever you want to give it. Maybe it's to your grandmother for new carpet in her house, or maybe it's to a charity or a ministry or whatever it is your thing is. But you got to have a good attitude about developing more money than you need. It's okay. And I want you to have fire in your belly about making more money than you need. Because the more you make than you need, the more you can help others.
Mo and Melanie, it's Kathy.
Hi, Kathy.
Hi, Mo. Whenever I teach small group or large, I always say, as Mo Anderson says, the higher purpose of business is to give and care and share.
That's right.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh, I have chills, and I've heard you tell that story before, but I'm so glad we got that on today. That is so good. You're really the mentor of mentors. I mean, all of us, I know for Kathy, you've been a mentor for all of us listening. You know, we have listeners from all over the country on this in our little audience, and we have them on the live from all over too. They're making lots of comments. Who's your mentor?
Well, Gary has been my business mentor, and my pastor has been my spiritual mentor. I've got two people that have helped me in my physical, you know, help me make sure I'm stretched, and I work with weights, and I take care of my fake knees and my fake hip.
Superwoman.
My pacemaker and my fake aortic valve.
Hey girl, whatever it takes to look
I'm
like you at
just
85.
I'm just pieced together. But oh, I love all my fake stuff.
But you need people in all those categories, right?
That's right.
You need those people no matter why I ask you that question is because everybody needs mentors, right? No matter who you are, you need people that inspire you, hold you accountable, help you be a better version of yourself, right?
John Maxwell has played a major role in my life in terms of leadership. In fact, I'm having lunch with him on Monday in Austin. He's going to be in Austin for another meeting. I think it's with teachers. I'm not sure.
Oh, that's so
And
special.
we've arranged to have, and so I'll have another mentoring session with him, and I appreciate him so much.
Yeah, he is just such a wonderful
And
mentor.
we've had financial mentors who give us guidance on risky investing, conservative investing, because when you're ancient like I am, you better be pretty conservative.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so cool. But listen to that, people. Listen to that. Like all of these different mentors, wherever you are in your life right now, if you don't have mentors around you, right, you're missing out because how do we become the best versions of ourselves? We surround ourselves with people that are really powerful and experts in all different parts of our life, right? It's not just one fit for all, right? You didn't say Gary Keller for everything, right? You didn't say your spiritual leader for everything, right? It's all different.
Right. When I hadn't even heard of Keller Williams, I had a newspaper owner in Edmond, Oklahoma, who was very wealthy. He had developed wealth on his own. He didn't inherit it. And we went to lunch once a month, and I would ask him questions about how he developed more money than he needed, what he did, how did he think, what did he read, what did he study. And we did that once a month for years. And in return, I got lots of referrals for my people.
I love that. I love it. It's the long play, isn't it? It's the long play. It's not, people don't always see short term on the results that are going to come out from a relationship or an experience, right? When you do good and put good out into the world, it may not show up right away, but Mo, I know that you are a believer that it will show up some way at some point, right? When you do good into the world. I know we're almost out of time, so I just have a couple quick questions here. I want to ask you this one because, so I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. I knew I wouldn't get through all of these. This last 2 years have been interesting for people, right? Mentally and the isolation we've had. So there may be agents or leaders out there that aren't seeing the success that they would like to have right now, right? I mean, they're just not, for whatever reason, whether it's totally 100% on their own. Do you have any advice for them? So anybody listening today that's maybe not living that life or having that success that they would like to be having?
Yes, I would ask them how many hours a day they lead generate. Because when you have a pandemic like this, it's real easy to back off of your lead generation. Because anytime somebody is not doing well, it's because they're not lead generating enough. And there are a jillion ways to lead generate. Gary, I think, lists almost all of them in the MREA book. But I worked with some people during the pandemic and encouraged them to do nothing but lead generate from the people they know. And some of the most amazing things happened. You know, there's a Michigan agent that got 11 listings in 1 week from doing nothing but calling his sphere of influence. And it's exciting what happens when you just lead generate with people you know. Duh.
Yeah, I know. And it's so interesting because so many times people want to blame everything around. Oh, it's the pandemic. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. And you come back to, I had James Shaw on as a guest, and Tony Zargami out of Florida was visiting, and he asked the room, how's the business? And she said, oh, we have an inventory issue. And he said, Tony, do we have an inventory issue or do we have a lead generation issue?
That's it.
Right. And she said, OMG. She said, that will never come out of my mouth again. And she said they went back and changed that day, that they got into action and they ramped up. They needed to talk to more people to hit the numbers they needed to hit. It was a simple math thing.
Anytime an agent isn't doing what they want to do, it's always about lead gen.
Yeah. You're not talking to enough people.
Because we don't let new people who come into the business understand clearly that they're really not joining the real estate business. They're really joining a business that requires lead generation. So if they have an aversion to lead generation, they shouldn't be in this business. Not everybody's supposed to be in real estate. Only those who have initiative, who have discipline and fire in their belly belong in this business.
That's right. Amen. Mo, how are you on time? Do you have to hop off? Are you okay? Okay, because we're going to run a couple minutes over. Are you okay with that?
As long as it's only 2.
Okay, perfect. All right, 2 minutes over. Okay, I'm going to add last question. What's the greatest compliment anyone's ever given to you, and how can anyone listening, best honor your legacy?
Well, probably the best compliment I've ever had was the Oklahoma Hall of Fame. That was just an honor that's just so exceptional. It just meant the world to me. Just think, a tenant farmer's daughter. I mean, a tenant farmer's daughter who's not supposed to be in the Hall of Fame. You know, it's just amazing. And how you could honor me is team leaders need to lead generate and agents need to lead generate. And then, of course, you know, I love the inspirational mornings. So when I die, y'all can call it the Mo's breakfast or something and honor me. But it would only be if they hold to the standards of the breakfast that we've tried to hold to all these years. So just honor me by making more money than you need. That would honor me more than anything.
What a lesson that is. The more you make, the more you can give, right? And if you are going to family reunion, if you're somebody listening to this, do not fly back before the inspirational morning. It is the best part of the entire event. I can't ever not cry during that. And it's happy tears, and my heart is so moved. Mo, thank you so much for your time. Would you like any last comment before we wrap this up?
Well, just know how proud I am of all of you. You've shown courage and you've shown grace and you've shown determination in a really couple of rough 2 years. And I just want you to know that didn't go unnoticed. And just keep up the good work, because you can sell real estate. I don't care if it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, or if there's a recession or there isn't a recession. There's always a need for people buying real estate. You are so blessed to be in this business. It's the greatest business in the world. And just know how proud we all are of you, and keep up the good works and know that we love you. Here's the kiss.
Oh, and we will receive it. And I'm sorry to the audience. We just ran out of time. I wasn't able to open it up for questions, but thank you everybody for being here. Thank you to our listeners. And Mo, love you, adore you. Thank you for all that you do. You make the world a better place.
Thanks.
Thank you guys. Bye. Thanks for
Bye.
joining.